You have everything of a great conspiracy. How did I get
Yeah, it's kind of a creepy place, you know, because there's no light at all.
A lot of experiments out there.
Plutonium, nuclear weapon.
Nuclear destruction. They're just balls of light. There's a ghost now.
All right, here we go. Broadcasting live just outside the Napa Valley wine country. This is Beyond the Strange. Good evening, everyone. I'm your host, Dave Cruz. And thank you for joining us this evening. We are live on the Fringe FM and Beyond the Strange YouTube channel. The call-in numbers tonight are going to be slightly different. And we definitely have some things to go over tonight before we get into it. So first of all, the call-in number is 1-800-588-0335, and that's after we get into the first break. So 1-800-588-0335, and that's when the phone lines are open. And yes, it is Sunday, May 17th, 2020, year of our Lord. Got a lot happening, a lot going on. My special guest tonight is cryptozoologist, author, and researcher Ken Gerhard. He'll be joining us here in a bit, but we do have a few things we need to talk about really quick. First of all, you want to visit beyondthestrange.com for everything. That's beyondthestrange.com, and you want to do that so we can not have to worry about going over all the stuff, all the social media and all that. That's all linked. Everything's linked at beyondthestrange.com. So I'll make it easy, and we'll do that. And the podcast is on iTunes, Google Play, Stitcher, and Spreaker. And please leave a like, subscribe, share the show. Everything helps. Leave some comments, whatever you want. It's all good. I do read them, so be nice. No, it's all good. But yeah, we have a great show. And by the way, Ken Gerhard has been so kind and nice to join us tonight. We're just going to jump right into it. He does have to leave at the top of the hour, but I am going to open up the lines, like I said, at the bottom of the hour. So let's get right to it. All right. Ken Gerhard is a widely recognized cryptozoologist and field investigator for the Center of Fortean Zoology, as well as a fellow of the Pangea Institute and consultant for several research organizations. He's traveled the world searching for evidence of mysterious animals and legendary beasts, including Bigfoot, the Loch Ness Monster, the Chupacabra, and the enigmatic winged creatures and werewolves. In addition to co-hosting the History Channel TV series Missing in Alaska, Ken has appeared in 3 episodes of the television series Monster Quest and is featured in the History Channel special The Real Wolfman, as well as other series. He has been featured on radio shows such as Coast to Coast and also featured in articles by Associated Press, Houston Chronicle, and Tampa Tribune. Ken is an author and has contributed to trade publications, including Fate magazine. He currently lectures and exhibits at various conferences and events across the United States. And he was born on Friday the 13th, October 1967, one week before the famous Patterson Bigfoot footage was shot. Ken has traveled to 26 different countries on 6 continents, and he's virtually visited all the United States. You can find a lot more of this information on kengerhard.com. So everyone, please help me welcome Mr. Ken Gerhard. Ken, thank you so much for being on the show tonight.
Well, good evening, Dave. It's an honor and a pleasure to be here with you. Thank you for having me on, and I hope everyone out there is keeping safe and feeling well.
Yes, absolutely. This is a very trying time right now with the COVID-19, and it's definitely something that people like you and other researchers are just probably having a difficult time staying at home and not getting the research done like you'd like.
Yeah, it's true. It's hard to get out, and a lot of the parks and things were closed. And by parks, I mean like wilderness areas, state parks and national parks, and those can be kind of research hotbeds for cryptozoologists like myself. But we're all in this together, and when things get normal again, we'll get back on a normal course. And people have asked me, Dave, if more cryptids are out, because the people aren't out. Maybe things like Bigfoot and other cryptids are coming out more. I haven't gotten more reports, but it's an interesting theory, because a lot of animals, obviously displacement is a big thing when things radically change in their environment, and they go into unexpected places. So but as of now, I haven't gotten an uptick in any type of reports or anything like that. So
interesting. Yeah, I didn't even think about that. That's true. Definitely cryptids such as Bigfoot. I think a friend of mine and I were talking about this earlier. We actually did go investigating in Oregon, Southern Oregon, back in October of last year. And of course, this is like before all the whole big COVID thing. And, but it was like right after the fire season as well. And, where we were at, we could see where it was all burnt, and there was a lot of burnt trees. It had just, the snow had just melted. So, the river was running, the creek was running. But the animal life was coming back. We did find some prints. I wouldn't say we found any Sasquatch prints or anything like that. We did find a couple of big prints. I was going to put something together as a presentation one of these days of everything we caught, up there. But there are some very interesting things, and hopefully later on you'll stick around, because I do have a friend of mine that's going to be calling in. And we did witness something very interesting, Ken, that you're going to be very interested in. So,
cool.
We'll save that. We'll save that for later. But, my friend, this show is about you tonight. So I'd like to know, what got you into all this?
Well, that's probably the question that people ask me the most, because it is a very unconventional, sort of non-traditional thing to do. But, it's just been a lifelong passion and interest of mine. It started when I was a young kid, and I always tell people I already loved monsters and monster movies, and I also loved the outdoors and animals. And so cryptozoology, which is what I do, is kind of a perfect marriage of those two things. Has to do with all the creatures and weird beasties out there. Growing up, my mother really encouraged my interest. She took me on some amazing vacations around the world. We camped along the Amazon River. We visited the Galapagos Islands, Machu Picchu, Australian outback, Africa. I mean, she took me all over the place, and I was always kind of already at a young age trying to learn about different legends of legendary creatures and animals in different places. And then at age 15, my family vacationed at Loch Ness, of course, the Loch Ness Monster, Nessie, and I tried to do field research at a young age with a movie camera and interviewing the locals and doing different things. And so it's just, something I've done for years and years, and I never planned on making a career out of it. But, maybe 20 years ago, I started writing books, and I met some people that helped me out in terms of giving me opportunities to do lectures and different things. And uh, eventually I was fortunate enough to get onto some television shows too. So it's just, something that I love to do, and I feel very blessed.
Absolutely. That's, do you ever consider going into medicine or law or sports or anything like that? Too boring, huh?
Too much math in medicine, to be honest with you. And I have nothing but the greatest respect for scientists and academics. But, I did try a music career for many years, and I had a creative side. And for about 20 years, I did music. But, at some point I got a little bit just kind of burned out on that and wanted to delve into the cryptozoology full scale. And it's been pretty amazing adventure.
What instrument, may I ask?
I was a singer frontman, and I also played keyboards and synthesizers and did a lot of kind of like industrial and electronic dance music, kind of dark electronic music there for years. And, worked with guys from Nine Inch Nails and Ministry and some of those bands and stuff. So it was a lot of fun. I really enjoyed it, but it's a tough business. I guess there are a lot of tough businesses, medicine and what were the other, they're all tough.
True.
But musician, it's tough to earn a living that way. And, so, and I love the outdoors, and you don't get to spend a lot of time in the woods when you're doing electronic music. So
yeah, it's kind of hard to carry your keyboard when you're going out to the woods and looking for Bigfoot.
Yeah.
But no, that's awesome though, man. I'm glad I asked that question. It's cool that what we do here. Like I try to bring the fringe to my audience every week, and you bring the cryptozoology and all your research to all your people and stuff, and it's just it's nice to know that there's other things besides what we do. Like music or soccer, stuff like that. I mean, there's so many things out there that people just don't know about, you or anybody else that does this kind of thing. So that's really awesome. Your bio mentions that you're all over the United States. You've been to most countries. Is there anywhere that you still feel like you need to go, someplace that's on your bucket list or something that you want to go to?
Too many. I mean, really, too many. I mean, some of the high mountain ranges of Asia, the Himalayas, and some of those ranges, and Mongolia, maybe, New Zealand or Tasmania, Norway. I love the jungle, so I'd love to do more jungle work in Central and South America, maybe Africa. So in Indochina. I mean, there's just, I love to travel and explore. There's
that's awesome.
Not enough time to see all of them, I'm afraid. But I just love the diverse wilderness habitats, whether it's jungle or mountain ranges in the North Country or whatever, man. I love animal life and just kind of being in the outdoors. And, as I said, everywhere you go, it seems like there's some type of legend or mythology about some type of creature or beast or something to investigate.
That's awesome. And by the way, for everyone in the chat, that's in the YouTube chat, thank you for joining us. Those who are in the Discord chat, appreciate that. I will get your questions after the first break. If you don't mind, just hold off. Put them in caps, if you will, so they're easier to read. And we'll get those questions out to Ken as we go along. So, if you do that, that'd be awesome. I titled this episode "The Flying Humanoids," with Ken Gerhard, and there's so much more. We could talk about. We could go into Bigfoot. We can go into Loch Ness. I'm sure there's a bunch of ufology stuff that we could also talk about. But the main reason, Ken, why I chose flying humanoids is, I in my opinion, I think the flying creatures are just so much more, how would you say, just more sinister, you got some dark figures that are in the sky. maybe in a tree on the rooftop. And then all of a sudden they start flying around, and that they may even be next to your car or in front of you or something like that, and also, I want to get to the Mothman, of course. Everyone's definitely wants to talk about the Mothman.
Mothman's king. Yeah.
Mothman is amazing. And really, this is why I contacted you, because I want to get your opinion about the Mothman, and how the Mothman is usually an omen of things to come. And when the Mothman shows up, it's in Point Pleasant, right? And it's 1966, I believe.
November 14th, 1966.
And there's a couple that's in their car, and the whole story about that is they see the Mothman, and it's kind of chasing them and stuff. But then it's not until a year later that the Silver Bridge, I believe.
Yes, Silver Bridge.
And also in Point Pleasant, collapses, and they see a creature that resembles the Mothman, and I believe 47 people died from that collapse. So the Mothman
46.
is like a harbinger of death, from what some people believe. Recently, in the last few years, I believe it was 2017, there was another Mothman sighting, but this time it's in Chicago. And I'm not sure if you're familiar with, you got to be familiar with that. But I wanted to get your opinion. Is this Mothman creature, could he be some kind of angel of death that, there's more things to come? Like, I know it's kind of far-fetched maybe, or a stretch, but after we see the Mothman, now we have all these weird weather patterns. We see all these wildfires. We see, it's almost like, he's brought perhaps the apocalypse with him. I mean, we're in COVID-19 now and that kind of thing. I want your opinion about that.
Well, I always have to clarify something, Dave, which is, as a traditional cryptozoologist, everything I do is primarily based in zoology. That's a big part of cryptozoology. So it's really based around the, established scientific principles of zoology, biology, ecology, and all those types of things. Mothman steps outside of that paradigm, right? It's so weird. It's so unnatural in its physical and behavioral characteristics that it doesn't fit into the natural paradigm. But it looks kind of like an animal, which is why we investigate those things. So it's kind of more, what I'm saying is it's more of a supernatural, or almost a spirit. What you're asking me is almost like a spiritual or a belief, faith-based question. Do I believe that it creates these things? From a scientific standpoint, I like to look at things in terms of evidence and probability, based on what you're looking at on the evidence. There are some people that do think that Mothman and other similar flying humanoids, that their appearance is basically, like you said, a harbinger, an omen, a premonition of some tragedy or some catastrophic event. And you can find a basis for that in some mythologies too. For example, the ancient Sumerians believed in a creature called Pazuzu, which was a demon with wings and a man-like form. And its appearance was basically considered like, there was going to be a plague or famine or something horrible. Similarly, in ancient Scottish and Irish legends, you have things like the Scree and the Banshee, which are basically same type of thing. They're omens. They're flying creatures that portend something tragic that's going to happen. And then you have other legends around the world. In many cultures, if an owl appears outside your window, that means someone in the family is going to die. That's a big deal down in like places like Mexico and Latin America. You don't want the lechuza to show up outside your window.
I know that one.
So there is this kind of cultural acceptance that a flying creature could be an omen. And moreover, and I'm sorry to ramble, but the name,
go ahead.
The word monster means omen or warning. In Latin, it comes from the Latin word monstrum, which means warning. So any monster technically could be considered a warning or a premonition if you see something like that you interpret to be a monster. So yeah, there is some evidence that there could be a connection. Now, that said, there are a lot of kind of misrepresentations out there online. Like people always tell me that they heard Mothman was sighted before Chernobyl disaster and before the Fukushima disaster and before 9/11. And I've never heard any substantiated proof of that. They're just rumors. So I think people, you have that dynamic too, where people tend to build up this mythology that, that there is going to be a Mothman at any of these catastrophic events. And that said, with the Chicago cases, I haven't personally interviewed any of those witnesses. A colleague of mine has, and he's kept me in the loop for a couple of years now on those. I have no reason to doubt the veracity of, I've interviewed many people that have seen similar things all over the world, claim they've had these experiences. So, if people want to make that connection and say, okay, all of a sudden there are all these Mothman sightings, but then why Chicago? Is Chicago getting, any worse off? Not to be disrespectful to anyone in Chicago. My heart goes out to you. I love your city, but is it any worse there now than anywhere else? Is it? So I don't know. There are a lot of layers. I guess that's what I'm trying to say, Dave. And it's hard to kind of pick through all that. But you're right. There is kind of a belief and perhaps a tradition of flying monsters and human-like flying monsters somehow being connected with, really tragic and horrible events. Could be.
Yes, and it's just something that I know a lot of people believe in. But you're right, there is the science part about this. I believe there is even talk about the DNA is probably not of this world, for the Mothman or other cryptids. Perhaps that they could have been brought here by meteorites or something like that. Who knows? I don't know the answers, but you mentioned that scientifically is what we want to kind of take this aspect of it.
Well, not everyone has to. For example, there are people that come from more of a paranormal and a spiritual, belief system type perspective, and they would consider Mothman a demon. They wouldn't call it an extraterrestrial or interdimensional. They'd say it's a demonic entity. That's their interpretation of how the universe works. And like you said, Dave, none of us really know. This is all just speculation, and that's all any of us can do is just based on our own experiences and so forth, try to put some pieces of the puzzle together. But these are pretty cosmic mysteries that are kind of mind-blowing and a little bit above our ability to comprehend what's really going on sometimes.
Right. No, absolutely. I had to set the tone for tonight's show. That's basically why I brought up Mothman first. Again, there's tons of other cryptids that that I'd love to go into. As a matter of fact, I even created a slideshow in the YouTube chat. The YouTube people that in there, thank you very much for joining us, or getting a treat checking out some of those images of the Mothman, and we'll get to some more of those cryptids here in a minute. You mentioned lechuza. Are you familiar with Spanish lore?
Well, yeah, I live in San Antonio, so I've been here for a number of years, and one of the first things I ever investigated was known as the Big Bird, Pájaro Grande, which was sighted down in the valley, and then lechuza kind of ties into that whole mythology. And I've been to Mexico a couple of times to do research, both on the Chupacabra, but also in and around Monterrey. There's a place called La Huasteca where this Birdman creature is said to roam. And so, Texas, where I'm at, I kind of feel like is almost, political delineations aside, it's basically Mexico, as far as like the geography and stuff and the culture. So, I feel a strong connection to all of that for sure.
Yeah, that's awesome. I was just saying to one of my buddies a couple of days ago, actually, I was watching one of the videos about the Chupacabra of Texas, because there's different Chupacabras, Puerto Rico Chupacabra, and you I believe you know one of my wife's cousins by the name of Lupe Mendoza.
Oh yeah, yeah.
He says hi, by the way, and he's
Oh,
listening.
cool.
So
Awesome.
yeah. So he's like, man, you got to get Ken on your show. So it's all right. I'll see if I can reach him.
Yeah, awesome.
But,
Yeah,
but I've
Lupe's
been
a great guy.
Yeah,
great,
he's really
good researcher, and
man.
he and his wife came to the zoo one time, and I work at the San Antonio Zoo, so we had a good time kind of checking out the animals. So very cool.
Yeah, that's Lupe. He's a great guy. But he's mentioned that the chupacabras that are down in that area, they go by another name called blue dogs.
Yeah, it's kind of confusing. And, you know, what I have to tell a lot of people about many cryptids, cryptid, of course, the name we use to describe things we investigate in cryptozoology. The chupacabra is almost like what I consider a case of composite identity, meaning it's not just one specific type of animal, but it's a broad name that's been kind of used on different types of phenomenon that are going. As you mentioned, Puerto Rican chupacabra is kind of a kangaroo shaped thing with spikes going down its back and these big giant eyes, and bipedal. Here in Texas, it's more of like a canid dog-like animal that's hairless, that has long fangs and bluish skin color, which is why we call them the blue dogs. Mm-hmm. We're trying to we invented. I didn't invent that word, but some of our investigators, to try to create that distinction. Okay, we know they're dogs. We've had their DNA tested and stuff, but they may drink blood. There have been allegations of that, which is why they're called chupacabras. And then when you go down into other countries, sometimes they have wings and they're like giant bats. You hear that in Mexico and sometimes down in Chile and places like that. So yeah, it's a name that, that's why it's confusing to people, because they think that one name should be assigned to one specific thing. But over time, that name has kind of grown to and been applied to different weird creature sightings all over, mostly Latin America and some parts of the United States, but I guess around the world too, a little bit.
Okay. All right. Well, I'll tell you what, Ken, let's go ahead and go into our first break. It's the bottom of the hour. And when we come back, we'll definitely get into some more of the flying humanoids, and we'll get into some phone calls. I know your time is very important, so we'll go ahead and do that. You are listening to Beyond the Strange right here, live on the Fringe FM. Don't go away. We'll be right back with more of Ken Gerhard right after this.
This is the Rogie Report news on the Fringe FM. I'm Jess Rogie. The sun is the nearest star to our planet, and the sun is joining the rest of the world by going into lockdown. The sun is experiencing a period of a solar minimum, meaning that the surface activity has fallen. Every 11 years, the sun starts a new solar cycle, which scientists believe is controlled by the sun's magnetic field, which goes through a periodic cycle in which the south and north poles essentially switch spots. And it takes about 11 years or so for them to switch back. The year 2019 also saw an unusually low number of sunspots, with a total of 281 days where there were no sunspots on the sun. 2 consecutive years of record-setting spotlessness adds up to a solar minimum, according to spaceweather.com. Calm down your doom detectors, because this is not the first time the sun has gone into a solar minimum. Alexander Shapiro, a scientist at the Max Planck Institute for Solar System Research in Germany, told Inverse, the difference between a solar maximum and minimum is not significant enough to have an impact on Earth. Instead, the sun's effect on the Earth is based on its ultraviolet radiation, rather than its total amount of energy or activity. He described it as a top-down mechanism, where the sun's radiation has a slight effect on the Earth's atmosphere, which would, in turn, change the amount of UV radiation in some sense. And speaking of the sun, the summer solstice is only a few months away. and people are typically planning their trips to Stonehenge to experience the solstice. The ancient site hosts one of the world's most popular solstice celebrations, attracting thousands of people, including the Druid and pagan community. This year, however, the celebration won't be possible due to social distancing. This year, the celebration will not be possible. The English Heritage Organization, which manages Stonehenge, is asking people to not visit the site and instead is offering a live stream of the sunrise. The summer solstice will stream live on June 21st. Quarantine can be rough. Being stuck in close quarters with someone can be difficult for the living and the deceased. People have been reporting roommates they didn't realize they had. Paranormal researcher John E.L. Tenley estimates that in 2019 he would receive about 2 to 5 reports of hauntings each month. Lately, he's been receiving 5 to 10 in a week. So be nice to your ghostly housemate. This is the Rogie Report News on the Fringe FM. I'm Jess Rogie.
Hey there, this is Ryan Gable of the Secret Teachings radio broadcast, and you are listening to the inquisitive Dave Cruz from Beyond the Strange on the Fringe FM.
Have you ever looked skyward and pondered UFOs, aliens, time travel, alternate universes, and parallel dimensions? Want to explore paranormal activities, hauntings, and various cryptoids such as Bigfoot, sea and lake monsters? Greetings, Beyonders. I'm author Casper Parks, and you're listening to Beyond the Strange with host Dave Cruz. Help spread the word by posting links to forums and social media. Available at YouTube, Spreaker, iTunes, Stitcher, and TuneIn Radio.
All right, welcome back, everyone. This is Beyond the Strange. I'm your host, Dave Cruz. Thank you all for being here tonight. We are speaking with cryptozoologist, author, researcher Ken Gerhard. You can go to kengerhard.com and find out a lot more about Ken. Author of many books, one of them being The Encounters with Flying Humanoids, which I received not too long ago, and Ken was good enough to actually autograph that book. And I'm really stoked, and it's been a great book so far. And once again, I just want to say thank you very much, Ken, for being on the show and for your time.
Oh, thank you, man. I always enjoy talking about this stuff, and it's can't think of a better way to spend a Sunday night.
Well, that's why I do it on Sunday nights. But no, it's been a real adventure for me too. I mean, I've been to different conferences and I've spoken to a lot of people over the interviews and when I told you about the investigation that I did, I was invited by a friend of mine, and we're going into Bigfoot. But I was invited by a friend of mine who had gone up to this place close to Grants Pass in Southern Oregon. This was October. So it was right before winter. Again, like I said, it was like right after some of the brush fires. Didn't really see a lot of wildlife, but we did, manage to see, some of the stuff, some of the wildlife coming back, like deer, small bird prints. It was really cool. If anything, it was really nice to get back to nature. And, we were there for like 4 days or something like that. Yeah. But one of the interesting things, let me go back a little bit. So my friend Matt, who really invited me and a bunch of other guys to come up there. He was up there about over 7 years ago, and they were doing some panning. They were gold mining, that kind of thing, looking for gold and stuff. And there's a river or a creek up there. And one of the nights they were up there, they're around a bonfire or fire, and all of a sudden there was some rocks that were like like someone was throwing rocks at their truck. And it was like, what the heck? And so they described it as, it just seemed like, somebody in the woods throwing rocks. And then these rocks got bigger, but they were thrown with the same velocity. And it's like, what's really going on here? My friends are thinking there's, something weird happening. And then they started hearing some really loud, blood-curdling howling, actually, not yelps, howling. And it was like really like deep in the chest, kind of gurgle loud. And they really believed that there was a Bigfoot up there when they were up there. So Matt decided he wanted to go back up there, and he invited a bunch of us. And matter of fact, one of those guys they're on the line right now. I'll bring him in here in a second. And his name is Carl. And we were up there in October, and we, like I said, we saw some prints. We didn't really see a whole lot. We didn't see Bigfoot, of course, but we did hear some wood knocks. We did hear some yelping, and we heard some metal. Sound like metal clanging almost. And yeah, it was really bizarre. But what we really saw that kind of freaked us out was a weird light in the woods. It was like in a wooded area. It was almost like a flashlight, almost like a helicopter spotlight. And then it got really small and dim, and it just disappeared. From what one of the guys was saying, and I, from the angle I was at, I just saw, I barely caught the light, but I saw it. So, real quick, I want to bring in Carl, and Carl will bring up some more of this stuff. Carl, how's it going tonight?
Good. How are you guys?
Doing great. You're on with Ken
Carl.
Gerhard.
Hey,
How's
Ken.
it going?
Yeah, so good. We're talking about this light that me and Dave witnessed. And we now keep in mind that we all saw it a little bit like a beat after each other. So the guy that saw the most of it, his name is Dave also, and he probably got a good 3 seconds of it. Me and Dave turned our heads, and we probably, I'd estimate I only saw it for like about a 1.5 to 2 seconds, and Dave somewhat similar. I didn't get to see it quite as big maybe as Dave did, but I saw the end of it. And at first I would say it was low to the ground, and it was like, I thought it seemed similar to like when you power down your computer screen and the glow just dims down real quick. That's what it reminded me of when I saw it. But in further reflection now, I'm thinking, you know what, it kind of really seemed more like when you see a falling star and the very end of the falling star when it burns out and it just fades real quick. That's how quick it faded, And
Okay.
I'm really curious about it because, I've done a lot of Bigfoot research, and I've heard of a lot of people that are out, not necessarily it's connected, but out when they're out looking in the woods for Bigfoot and stuff. A lot of people, I was telling Dave, now that I'm listening to a lot of encounters, it seems like one in about every 3 or 4 people sees these lights in the woods. And I was wondering if you have any thing to add to that or to tell us about it.
Well, I mean, I got to be honest with you. It's all about sourcing. So I'm not exactly sure, what reports you're referring to, but I've been investigating Bigfoot my whole life, and there are thousands of accounts out there, and really the accounts that I hear about and have read about and have studied for years and years don't include weird lights. So that's kind of something. Those types of phenomenon are usually associated with certain geographic areas. What people refer to as kind of like spooky spots or window areas where you have this high density of like not only Bigfoot but UFOs and other weird cryptids. And there are, I acknowledge there are places like that where people have claimed that you have this kind of vortex of like weirdness and stuff. And so it's a natural assumption that people want to connect those things and say, okay, well, there were Bigfoot sightings out here, but I saw UFO. But just to give you an example, an anecdote of my own, guys, I went to a place years ago in Ohio looking for Bigfoot, a place called Charles Mill Lake, where there had been a lot of Bigfoot sightings. And I was out there all night with a buddy, and we were kind of camped out by the lake, and we did not see or experience any Bigfoot stuff, but we saw a UFO. It was like one of those big black triangles, as they call them, with the flashing lights on the corners, and it was quiet. It was huge. It may have been a military or experimental craft. I'm not saying it was a UFO, but it was definitely something weird that happened that we weren't expecting, So it'd be easy for somebody to, particularly if you're in a certain area where, the variables are just right to experience different, types of unusual, phenomenon, if you will. But I'm not a proponent of Bigfoot being connected to the supernatural in any way. So I don't think that they are interdimensional, associated with ghost lights, a lot of them vanish into thin air. There are accounts like that, but in the scheme of things, those accounts make up a very, very small percentage, a minuscule percentage of the big picture of Bigfoot. And but that's just my experience. And, different people have different experiences based on what their sources are. So.
Yep. There you go, Carl.
Yeah.
But,
okay, I just wanted to add
it's weird. I'm not saying it's not weird, but
Go ahead, Carl. You had another question?
Yeah, and also.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Yeah, Go ahead. You finish, Ken.
Oh, I was just going to say, I'm not really a paranormal investigator per se, but I'm a very open-minded person, obviously. But I always, on any unusual experience that a person has, I always fall back on the most scientific and practical explanation. So, for example, there are things in our universe that don't happen very often, like ball lightning and discharges from the earth of different types of energy and things like that. So, and there's also a possibility for paranormal. I get that there might actually be, otherworldly entities and things. I have friends that are into that. So, I'm open-minded. So who knows what you saw, but I don't think it was connected to Bigfoot. That's my only strong opinion. I haven't seen enough evidence for that, but it's an interesting coincidence for sure.
Yeah. And I was just saying that when I first got on, I was saying I don't really think it's connected either. It was just that we happened to be out there, for that reason. And then we didn't have any really encounters, but we saw that instead.
Yep.
And it was just
yep.
I'm gathering from your knowledge base or whatever. You're trying to just say that it's like a paranormal hotspot or whatever, and that's all those things are kind of happening. Yeah. Okay.
There could be a reason. There's an energy of some kind there. That's all I'm saying is that's to me the most logical thing is you're in a place where there are Bigfoot sightings, yes, but there's some other causality that created a really weird, unusual thing to happen, and you were just in the right place at the right time. But who knows? All we do in this field is speculate. Nobody's really an expert, so none of us really know the answers to these things. So, but thank you for sharing it. That's a pretty cool story.
All right. Thanks a lot.
Thanks, Carl, for calling in. We'll talk later.
Thanks, Carl.
Okay.
Ken, I personally, I know what you mean, because if I didn't see it, I'd be the same exact way. Like, what do you mean? What are you talking about? We're here for, something else, but yet this happened, and it's like, whoa, what was that? And it was just really strange. A really strange thing. And it could have been paranormal. It could have been a firefly. I have no idea, but the way it looked, like Carl was describing, it was dimming down. It wasn't your normal flashlight. It wasn't, anything conventional. I saw maybe a second of it. Dave S., who was with us, he really saw it. And when he got up and he was like, check it out. And when we looked, we were just like, what was that? So it was just really bizarre.
Dave, let me interject something here, because there's an account, for example, from Pennsylvania from 1973 of some people that saw a Bigfoot walking through the woods, and it was carrying a glowing orb in its hand. So you want to talk about weird? Your show's all about weird, right? That's a freaking weird. If you see the Bigfoot with the anomalous light source in its hand, then yes, then suddenly you can make that pretty strong connection. And again, that's those types of accounts are in the minutia. So I don't want people to think that happens all the time, but it exists. It's on the record that happens. So, not saying it was Bigfoot, but that would be a much stronger thread of evidence, right? Okay, there's a connection between Bigfoot and these ghost lights because the Bigfoot's got a ghost light, but who knows, man? It's fun to talk about. We just don't know.
That I'll take it. If there's anything connected to what we saw, I'll take it.
It could be.
Let's just put it that way. But thanks again, Carl, for calling in. Anybody else that wants to call in while we have Ken with us, the number is 1-800-588-0335. Again, that number is 1-800-588-0335. And the lines are open right now. Ken, I want to ask you, what would you consider one of the most dangerous adventures, if you will, that you had so far in your years of researching?
Well, what I always tell people is that, I'm not so afraid of animals per se. I'm pretty comfortable in the wilderness, even at night, around things like bears and snakes and mountain lions or whatever. It's always the people that scare me. So I've done some investigations. People are the most unpredictable and dangerous animals out there. So, for example, when I was doing some expeditions down in Central America, in the jungles of Central America, there was talk of armed bandits and people like that running around in the jungle around us. And, there's no law out there. So, I mean, that's actually the most dangerous situation to be in, is if you're out in some third world country like that, and there are guys with machine guns running around in the woods. But fortunately, that didn't happen. But I think I've been within 40 yards of a Bigfoot. I've never seen one with my own eyes, Dave. Okay, so I've been investigating for years and years. I've never seen one. But in August of 2003, I was with some other researchers at a place in North Texas, pretty remote area. We heard these vocalizations, like deep grunts coming out of the brush. It was at night. I recorded them. It sounded like an ape. Okay, the three guys with me were like lifelong outdoorsmen, hunters that grew up in the woods, of Texas. So we heard this, we were all like dropping F-bombs, like, what is that? And it sounded like an ape. And we found other evidence that night, or the next morning. We didn't see it that night. It was in heavy brush. We moved to a higher vantage point. We used a spotlight. We saw some eye shine. But, I can't say definitively it was Bigfoot's eyes. It was just yellow eyes. And the next morning we did find footprints, and we found mutilated animal carcasses too. So all of that together, to me, is the most convincing thing I've experienced. And yes, it was kind of scary when it was happening, when the thing was grunting at us. We had one gun and I had a camera, and that's all I was, carrying at the time. And so that was, and it was close. It was about 40 yards away, whatever it was. So I think it was Bigfoot. And so that was probably one of the most intense experiences I've had out there, thinking that I was, finally that close to one of these things.
Wow. Yeah, that definitely sounds like you were super close. And, I just don't even know. I wasn't even thinking about that when I was out there looking for him. If I did run into him, what would happen? I was so caught up in wanting to find evidence. But then, when the nights came and you start hearing these wood knockings and maybe yelps and stuff like that, you start to wonder, what am I doing out here? I'm just kidding. But no, seriously, it is, you never know. I mean, but, that's an amazing story.
That said, let me tell this on the end, because one of the big misconceptions about Bigfoot, and I have a new book out called The Essential Guide to Bigfoot it's a primer. So it gives you all the basic information that you really need to know. It's very accurate. Mm-hmm. Bigfoot is not hyper aggressive. Okay. That's a misconception. I don't think they are out abducting people, killing people, cannibalizing people. They are probably as afraid of us, if not more so, than we are of them. That's my theory. They avoid us at all costs. When we see them, it's usually by accident. They can be aggressive territorially, so the rock throwing that you were describing earlier. That's a pretty common thing that's reported in Bigfoot areas. Yes, they do throw rocks. They don't want to physically confront you, but they are being physical and trying to scare you out of their area, or making vocalizations like we heard that were very aggressive, that were intended to drive us out. So like any animal, they'll defend their territory. But I don't think they're actively seeking out and trying to cause humans harm. And if they were, then we would have already known that they existed. It wouldn't be a controversial thing. It would be pretty much in the newspaper all the time. So, so that's just, that's my theory. So people should respect them, and, like all animals, have respect for an animal and in its environment. But, don't think that these things are evil and they're monsters and they're necessarily out to hurt us. I don't think that for a minute.
That's a great way to look at it. We do have another phone call. Area code 408. You're on with Ken Gerhard and Dave Cruz on Beyond the Strange.
Hey there, how's it going?
It's going great. May I ask who's speaking?
Yes, this is Suzette.
Hey, Suzette, how you doing?
Hi, Suzette.
Good. I thought I'll just call in real quick. I was talking to one of the Lakota leaders who was talking about Bigfoot because they use him in their teachings. And I know he's seen, even in Belgrade, Florida, like in the 90s and early 80s, like some of the sheriff's officers had to take some police reports about this big guy out there in the woods. But some of the indigenous leaders talked to him about him as an interdimensional being, which will explain maybe the light that you see and maybe the orb that he carries. And they use him as a teaching to open the hearts of the men. So they say that Bigfoot's teaching is to spend 4 days in the earth, 4 days in the water, 4 days in the air on a mountaintop, to open up their hearts, because they're extremely empathic, extremely sensitive. So if someone's heart is not in the right frequency, they tend to try to scare them off because they're super sensitive to the heart of people and energy. And sometimes people, I think, see a blue flash when they're around with them, which sounds like the light now that I connected to. So I thought maybe that would be something that, I don't know, you guys may find interesting, but
that is interesting.
Yeah,
consider them interdimensional beings so they could come in and out of this reality.
Right. Well, thanks, Suzette. Ken, you want to add to that?
Yeah. And again, it's not my experience. I'm not necessarily an advocate of Bigfoot as an interdimensional or spirit form. I've heard stories like that. I know there are some Native American traditions that characterize Bigfoot as a spirit, but my argument to that is, the same could be said for other animals. There are Native American traditions that refer to bears and wolves and otters and ravens and eagles as spirits too, and also physical. So, you get in kind of these ambiguous areas when you're talking about people's faith and belief systems and things, and they're certainly entitled to that. I'm just saying, in my experience of investigating, interviewing witnesses and investigating for years and years, I don't personally come across very much of those types of claims and stories. Now, that said, I'm certainly not a Native American. I do have Native American friends, but I understand that, different cultures have kind of their, for example, she's saying, the elders in certain cultures are not, do not want to share, or do not feel that it's appropriate to share some of those, secrets and things that are kind of held close to the tribe or to their, and that's fine, So, but yeah, there's certainly a lot of people that have claimed to have had those types of experiences. I haven't experienced that personally, so.
Yeah, I think it's very possible. And thanks again, Suzette. We got another call.
Yeah,
We're coming up against a break, and I don't know if you'll be able to hang out a few more minutes after the break, Ken. But if not,
I'll hang out a few after the break.
Okay, cool. Maybe we'll get another call in after that. But 415, you are on the phone with Ken Gerhard and Dave Cruz.
Yeah, hi, it's Dino, and I know you're coming to break. I would be willing to hold on, too, if you have to break now. I wanted to add a couple of things to the conversation, Ken.
I'll tell you what. Why don't you go ahead and hang on, Ken? Hang on, Dino, and we'll just go ahead and go to that break right now. And we'll come right back into the question, Dino, or the comments. And that'll be cool. Let's do that right now.
Cool.
Good.
All right. So this is Beyond the Strange. I am your host, Dave Cruz. We are speaking with Ken Gerhard, and we'll be back right after this. Don't go away.
is Joe Roop from Lighting the Void, and you're listening to KTLK Digital Broadcasting Station, The Fringe FM.
Please listen. Now is not the time to fear. When your immune system is strong, shields up. You have very little worries. If your immune system is compromised, you're susceptible to all viruses. I say shields up and no fear. Try Heart Love from GetTheTea.com. Heart Love has a special ingredient called allicin. It comes from the healing part of the garlic plant. No garlic breath, no garlic leaking out your pores, just pure immune-building ingredients that gets your shields up. Heart Love is a unique blend of herbs that loves to build you up. Google garlic and know the benefits. One Heart Love pill is equal to 20 cloves of garlic. 20 cloves! Shields up. You've heard of our Life Change Cleansing Tea at GetTheTea.com. Now try Heart Love. And by the way, take your blood pressure and watch weekly what happens. So here's how to purchase. Log on to GetTheTea.com. That's GetTheTea.com and build your shields. That's GetTheTea.com. Mention Ray in the coupon code and hit apply and receive free shipping.
Hey, Fringe listeners, this is Dave Cruz, host of Beyond the Strange Radio, asking you to join us live Sunday evenings at 7 p.m. Pacific Time, 10 p.m. Eastern, right here on The Fringe FM. Visit beyondthestrange.com for links to chat, social media, and schedules of the show. And remember, always stay strange. Asta.
Hey, is that a new music app?
Yeah, check it out. Surfer Music Discovery. It links to thousands of online stations, but the twist is you see the song names and artists that are now playing live.
That's different. No guessing. Looks like a waterfall of music.
So many formats. Rock, oldies, country, R&B, jazz, and a whole lot more.
How's that spelled?
Surfer. S-U-R-F-R.
Is it expensive?
It's free. No need to sign up or sign in.
Get the Surfer Music app free from Google Play or the App Store.
This is Crow 777, and you are listening to The Fringe FM.
Ooh. I don't think anyone was hearing me. Anyways, Ken Gerhard, thank you for being on the show with us tonight.
Thanks again for having me on, Dave. I appreciate your time.
Absolutely. And once again, I just want to mention that you can go to kengerhard.com and you can find links to all his books and information. And it's just been a great time. And I thank you for hanging with us a little bit longer after the break. We do have Dino on the line with us. Dino, thanks again for joining us.
Hey, it's nice. It's been a while since I talked to you, and I want to tell you the feed coming through on the YouTube is excellent, very
Great.
good fidelity.
Awesome.
And Ken, thank you for hanging around. I'm going to ask you a question at the end of this. I'm kind of not as into the cryptids as you are, and too bad there's not more time to hear about various other cryptids that I don't know much about. So to my only experience to bring it back to Sasquatch. And again, I don't know if I had an encounter, but years ago I was hiking in the Big Sur area about 10 miles back from the ocean on a hike-only single-track path with a friend of mine, and we did smell that horrible smell. That was one thing, and at the time I didn't think anything Bigfoot because I'd heard of it, but I wasn't into it. It was back in the 80s. And then on the trip back out from this hot spring there, my friend was, who happened to be part Native American, Cheyenne Indian, was a little slower than me, so I told him I'd go ahead because that was a long 12-mile hike and I wanted to get back before dark. On the way back, I did then get that horrible feeling. And again, I'm not a woodsman. I've been in country, but I mostly was raised in an urban environment. But I did feel the hair on the back of my neck go up, that something did not want me there, that something was watching me. And I even kind of trotted around the corner. There were no bird sounds. It was late in the afternoon, a lot of redwoods up and down. There wasn't a lot of visual. But when I got around that bend in that trail, I felt better. And when I got back, and right around sundown, my friend came trudging in, and when we talked around the campfire, he, had claimed that he had a similar feeling in the similar area when he was coming back out of the woods. And in his mind, as an Indian, he's always some wild animal watching us. So since then, I've done heard too many people, and this gets to my question, too many people tell me about experiences, or as a matter of fact, if you look at my picture, it's a picture of a supposed Sasquatch on an individual that I knew for many years, who claims to have captured it on his property up by the Oregon border a couple of years ago, just recently. And so that's what I want to ask you, is that you are someone who's written a book. You've actually put boots on the ground and gone places. What can we do, in your opinion, to bring these cryptid stories, and all of them can't be fake, and there are too many people, for example, seeing Bigfoot all around the country. What can be done to kind of bring this into the more mainstream? And people seem to be joking about it less, but like the UFO topic, there's evidence showing up, but somehow mainstream science isn't buying it. So why after all this time, why and what can be done, do you think, to bring people like you more in touch, to get it out there so that it's not an anomaly, but something that maybe could be discovered and explained?
Anything about that, Ken?
Oh, well, first of all, thank you for sharing your experience with us, Dina. That was interesting. Yeah, that's a great question. I'm, again, coming from a more of a scientific methodology standpoint. At this point, I feel like, there's a saying, of course, the more extraordinary the claim, the more extraordinary the evidence has to be to kind of prove that claim. And I think that's definitely true with Bigfoot now. I personally think we've moved past photographic evidence. I think photographic evidence or alleged photographic evidence of any of these cryptids at this point is a non-starter, because it's just too easy for people to fake photographic things these days with different programs and CGI and stuff. So, and science won't accept that anyways. We have thousands of accounts on records, but unfortunately, that's not strong enough either. Even with that many accounts, it's just not considered hard evidence. What we need is empirical evidence. So what we need is a type specimen, or just a part of a type specimen. So using Bigfoot as an example, I think these are flesh and blood creatures. I think they're very rare relict hominins. I think because they're big animals and the population must be in the low thousands and they've been around a long time, they do have to die and they have to leave remains. And I think that should be the main focus for Bigfoot investigators, is trying to find physical remains. I'm not an advocate of harming them or trying to kill them, but if you could find a bone, a tooth, a skull, any part of a physical body would prove, and maybe DNA might be the answer in the near future as well, because that technology is moving along. So that's what we need in terms of proving that these cryptids are real to the scientific establishment, is a physical part. And some physical parts, like things like droppings and hairs, just aren't necessarily good enough, because they're just they don't always retain DNA, and a lot of the analysis is kind of comparative. So so that's what I'm hoping, is someone will find a Bigfoot body of one that's died of natural causes, and think to take a part of it with them. So hopefully that'll happen. And to discuss every cryptid, obviously it would go on and on and on, because they're all kind of different cases, but the same premise. We need physical evidence that these things exist, and that's the only way scientists will ever take it seriously.
There you go, Dino.
Yeah, I mean, that's an important thing, and I think I agree with you. And then at the same time, it's when people see something and they know they weren't drunk, tripping, alternate state, and they were with someone, they know it's real. And even this individual that I've known for years, as much as they're probably a physical, that he's seen a physical. He took a picture with a trail cam, one going to his chicken coop. It's on the internet now for a couple of years. But he said one point, he told me, he doesn't talk about it a lot. He's not full-time at his cabin. But he said one time he was riding a motorcycle or an ATV through the woods in his area, because he's near a national park, his private land. And he said something knocked him off the bike all of a sudden that he didn't see. And that's why he felt that, well, maybe it isn't from a different dimension, which sounds hokey, except now physics nowadays is starting to back up that there are more than the dimensions we hear with our seven senses, our five senses. So again, that I agree with you. It needs to be some kind of crossover, and the more I look into it, the more I realize it's not nonsense.
That's possible.
Well, I appreciate your perspective. And one last thing I want to say about eyewitness accounts, and I've interviewed hundreds of credible people through the years that have had these experiences, and I understand it's very traumatic, and they're very profound, impactful experiences. What I'd like to see, but I doubt it'll ever happen, is more eyewitnesses and experiencers swearing to affidavits before a judge or a magistrate, or calling the police and filing a report when they see Bigfoot, and thereby inducing legal jeopardy, because it's obviously you can't tell a lie to the police or swear an oath, and there's a legal consequence. At one point in history that happened, back in the 1950s, 60s, and 70s, if someone saw Bigfoot, they would often call the police, file a report. It would be in the newspaper. Their names would be in the paper, and that's basically really sticking your neck out. And unfortunately, what I see more of these days is people that claim they've seen Bigfoot, but, I don't want anyone to, don't print my name. And I understand that. I'm respectful of that, but that just doesn't carry any weight. If you really want to put weight behind it, you say, I know I saw Bigfoot, swear an affidavit before a judge, and then, and again, I'm not saying that people should be doing that, but if that happened, that would certainly put a little bit more substance behind a lot of these eyewitness reports, because people would be saying, wow, these people are really, sincere in their convictions that they had this experience. They're willing to, swear before a judge or to a police officer that this happened. But it doesn't happen too much these days. People are a little bit too worried about the consequences, I guess. So
that's what it seems like. Dino, thanks for calling in tonight.
Yeah, thank you.
Really appreciate it.
All right,
no doubt.
I'll talk to you later.
Have a good one.
Thanks, Dino.
It's people see something. Whether or not,
no doubt,
whether or not they don't know it.
Sorry,
that's all right.
Phone fell over.
That's okay. It's happened to me a few times.
A little slippery there. Okay.
But I mean, whether it is physically there or not physically there, even under a lie detector, I believe people can still pass it, because they believe that they're seeing, whether it's a Bigfoot or a Birdman or, a sea serpent or something, in their heart, they're going to believe, Ken, that they actually encountered something amazing like that, you know, and,
Sure.
and I'm, you know, I wouldn't, like I said, it doesn't surprise me that, some, you know, a lot of these people just, they would be able to pass a lie detector test. I know they could, because, you know, they really feel that they can. But there's always the science part about it. And I know that that's, you know, what you're about, and a lot of researchers and a lot of investigators are about, is doing the science behind it.
Yeah, conclusive. I mean, that's, again, cryptozoology, traditional cryptozoology is based on zoology, and zoology requires a type specimen. Now, that's a relative, the level of proof is relative based on what you're claiming. And so, again, what I said about Bigfoot, if you're telling me that there's a giant man-like creature that lives in the woods of North America and the United States, I got to have a bone or a body.
Mm-hmm.
But if you're describing, as a traditional zoologist does, a new species of bird in the Amazon, and they don't have a body, but they found maybe they took a picture, or there was a really good description by a scientist that saw one, that can be considered proof for that animal, because it's not as far out and as extreme, you know. But when you start talking about Bigfoot or any of these cryptids, I mean, it's just so, you know, amazingly, you know, controversial that any of these things might exist, that you got to put your money where your mouth is. And, you know, hopefully it's at some point someone will find some physical remains, because that would be pretty remarkable.
Yes, it would. And Ken, I know your time is precious, but I was just hoping that maybe you can go over just a couple more of the cryptids that were from the encounters with flying humanoids. And one of them is the Owlman. Is that
mm-hmm.
you know, similar pretty much to the Mothman, correct?
Kind of, sort of. Owlman is a flying humanoid creature that's been reported from Cornwall in southern England, southwest England.
Mm-hmm.
It's described as having feathers, which Mothman has never been described that way. It's a little smaller than Mothman. It's covered in feathers, but it's human-like. It does have big black eyes, and it has these pincer-like feet. And it was mostly sighted in the 70s, 1976, and one sighting from the 80s. So it hasn't been seen in a long time, but all the sightings were kind of in a very specific area. So, yeah, Owlman is kind of like the British Mothman. Not as many sightings, but kind of a similar type of creature.
And what about the Valkyrie? Is that sort of like an angel type humanoid or cryptid?
Well, in my book, I read about the Valkyrie of Voltana, but I kind of invented that name. But Voltana is a town in Spain, and about a century ago, there were hundreds of people that claimed that this white angelic flying woman kind of hovered over their town, and there were these majestic sounds like angels singing, and of course it was interpreted as a miracle and stuff because of that time frame. But you know, Valkyrie is just, I think that's from Scandinavian folklore, is a you know, but you might have connections between some of these legends and myths, but there are various types of Mothman creatures that have been sighted around the world. Owlman's one example. In Vietnam, there's the Bird Woman of Da Nang. I mentioned Mexico, where, you know, there have been birdmen reported. Pretty much all over the world, similar types of creatures. They don't always have names, but things kind of like Mothman, but different variations have been described all over the world.
And then when you talk about the chimeras, are we talking that this is something that is I don't know if you want to call it a freak of nature, or evolution, or is this actually something that could have been man-made?
Well, it's when you talk about any of these, they're usually anthropomorphic creatures. When you're talking about chimeras, combining a human feature with a bird or a bat, or there's dog man, there's goat man, there's pig man. We have donkey lady here in San Antonio. So there's a lot of like weird beast people. You know, it's an evolutionary impossibility. So, you know, you have to rule that out immediately. There's no way it can't happen. There's no type of mutation that would bring, you know, forth any type of result like that. I'm not an advocate of manipulation, but I know that's been a theory that's been put out there by people, that there's some type of genetic manipulation, either by covert military government operations or maybe extraterrestrials, but who knows? I haven't seen any evidence of that. So, I tend to think that most of those types of creatures are supernatural or metaphysical. Now, that doesn't mean they don't have a physical presence, right?
Mm-hmm.
They can actually physically manifest whatever these things are. It seems like they can manifest at the time and place of their choosing. They can have a physical presence. And then they disappear and go back to wherever they came from. And if some people, again, refer to that as being interdimensional, some people say extraterrestrial, some people say demonic. It all just depends on your perception and, how you think the world works. But I don't think that they are living out in the wilderness on a regular basis, eating and breeding and doing all the things that I think Bigfoot is like that. I think the Loch Ness Monster is like that. I think thunderbirds are potentially real animals. But these chimeras, I don't think that they are flesh and blood. I think that they are temporarily physical, but they come from beyond somewhere. Who knows?
Interesting. Very interesting. One more before I let you go, if you don't mind. The Van Meter creature. This is, I don't know if I'm saying that right, but it's something that I had not heard of until I read your book. Can you please describe what the Van Meter creature is and what it does?
Yeah, the Van Meter, it's actually technically the Van Meter visitor, I guess just because it sounds catchier. But Van Meter is a little town in Iowa. And over a century ago, there was this, particularly in one particular evening, this flying humanoid creature kind of terrorized the town of Van Meter. It was shot at by some local judge. It was shot at by a local judge. It was described as kind of bigger than Mothman. I think like at least 7 feet tall. It had a humanoid form. It had giant wings. But it also had a beak, which is kind of different. Mothman doesn't. And it also, they said that it had like a glowing light in the middle of its head that was kind of like a beacon or something.
Mm-hmm.
And it may have come out of this old mine shaft. That's where it was last seen, was descending into this old mine shaft. But it's kind of a famous local legend in Van Meter, Iowa. And in fact, later this year, I will be speaking at the Van Meter Visitor Festival, which is really my first appearance of it. They have a festival every year.
Wow.
And that is going to be at the end of August. So yeah, it's kind of a Mothman type creature, but again, just a different variation. And of course, sighted a long, long time ago.
Yeah, I have a picture of it on the slideshow in the YouTube channel, and it looks very interesting. It does have that thing in the middle of the eyes. It almost looks like a giant bat crossed together with a dragon or something like that, or some kind of a rodent with very large wings. Very interesting looking creature, but very amazing. Ken Gerhard, where can we find you and everything that's you? And please tell us what you're going to be doing next.
Well, first, I'd like to give a shout out, if I may, to my beautiful girlfriend, Angelique, who's listening in all the way over in South Africa. Hey, baby. I have a website, kengerhard.com. I'm also on all social media, Facebook, Instagram, Twitter. I have a new YouTube channel, which I'm just starting to kind of load up with short videos that explain a lot of different cryptids, from thunderbirds to Mothman to whatever. I also have my Amazon page, of course, if anyone wants to check out my books. I have, as you said, 5 books available, and they're all available on Amazon, either as print or Kindle versions. So, and later this year, I'll be doing some public lectures around hopefully, if things get back to normal a little bit. I've got several Bigfoot conferences and the Van Meter Visitor Festival and the Mothman Festival, even in September in Point Pleasant. I'm scheduled to lecture at all those different events. So hopefully some of those will be going on.
That's awesome. And again, I really appreciate your time, Ken. And please come back to the show, and we'll talk some more about some of your other books and some more cryptids and monsters.
Yeah, definitely. Oh, sorry, did it again. Definitely, man. We'll be back. We'll talk about some more cryptids.
Fantastic.
Where we go? Yeah, man. Yeah, let's go. Let's do it. There's a lot of cryptids people haven't heard of: thunderbirds, lake monsters, black panthers. I'd love to come back on and talk about those with you.
Oh, really quick before you go, Tasmanian tiger.
Yeah, the Tasmanian tiger,
one of my
or
favorites.
the thylacine.
Mm-hmm.
The thylacine is a carnivorous marsupial that was endemic to Tasmania, the island of Tasmania, up until 1936, when the last specimen supposedly went extinct. But since that time, there have been thousands of reports, hundreds of reports in Tasmania and also Australia. And it's called the Tasmanian tiger because it has stripes on its back, but it's really more like a kangaroo with very sharp teeth that has a wolf-like form, but it's a marsupial. But I have a lot of hope that it still exists, that the thylacine will be discovered someday, still alive and well.
Yeah, me too. And especially that jaw that opens up almost like a snake, where it just goes on forever. It's very fascinating. It's like probably one of my favorite cryptids right now. But anyways, thank you very much again, Ken. Have a great night, and we'll stay in touch. And stay safe out there, my friend.
Thank you. Stay safe, everyone. Take care,
God bless
Dave.
you, man. You take care.
You too. Bye.
Ken Gerhard, everybody, thank you so much. It's been an amazing time talking with him, and I just want to mention that this has been a fascinating talk. But the show's not over yet. We're going to go to a quick break, and when we come back, we still have the phone lines open. So make sure you get your questions, comments, whatever you want to talk about. We got plenty of time left, so 1-800-588-0335. Again, 1-800-588-0335. When we come back from this last break, don't go away. This is Beyond the Strange. I'm your host, Dave Cruz. We'll be right back right after this.
Out there.
There's something out here.
And so are we. KTOK Digital Broadcasting, The Fringe FM.
Hey, this is Deb, and you're listening to Dave Cruz on Beyond the Strange Radio.
This is Reverend John M. Polk from johnpolkmedia.com, and you are listening to KTLK, The Fringe FM.
Are you intrigued by paranormal talk radio? You'll love the new paranormal radio app from TalkStream Live. You'll find a great selection of talk shows covering UFOs, ghosts, strange phenomena, and much more. Download the Paranormal Radio app now and start listening to the very best in paranormal talk entertainment, including the network you're listening to right now, the Paranormal Radio app, free in Google Play and the iOS App Store.
Yohoy there, it's Gigi from Shift Happens, and you're shaking some conversational tail feather to the Fringe FM.
I'm getting older and noticing that my body just doesn't work as well as it used to, so I like to keep fit as possible by hitting the gym a few times a week. Recently, I started having a nagging bicep pain, and it got so bad I couldn't even lift the weights. When I was complaining about it to a friend, he told me about angioprim. He said chelation helps remove toxins, heavy metals, and cholesterol in veins and arteries that may cause blockages. You know, after just 1 week of taking angioprim, the pain was gone, and now I'm back in the gym full strength. Scientific research proves the active ingredient in angioprim has superior oral chelation action that helps promote cardiovascular health. So to learn more, go to angioprim.com. That's ANGIOPRIM.com, or talk to a trained consultant. Call Angioprim toll-free at 945-882-7221. You'll feel better with more energy. That's 945-882-7221. Or go to the website, angioprim.com.
Hi, Jeremy Scott here from Into the Paranormal, and I'm back live Saturdays at 6 p.m. Pacific, 9 p.m. Eastern, right here on the Fringe FM.
All right, everyone. Welcome back. This is Beyond the Strange. I am your host, Dave Cruz. Thank you for joining us tonight. We were speaking with cryptozoologist, author, researcher Ken Gerhard. He is the author of 5 books based around cryptids, one being the Mothman. Fascinating topic. We've, had some great calls, and the show is continuing. So please call 1-800-588-0335. Again, that number is 1-800-588-0335. And, join the conversation. There's plenty of time. It doesn't have to be about cryptids. It can be about whatever you want to talk about, whether it's UFOs. It can be ghosts, your latest encounters with anything paranormal. If you want to talk about some of the current events that are happening today, that's fine. And we actually have a phone call right now. 978, you're on the air with Dave Cruz.
What's going on, Dave? It's the Night Stalker. Really great show so far.
What's up, brother? How you doing?
Not too bad. I'm just calling from the store per usual, but really cool stuff. I love the cryptid stuff. It's awesome.
Awesome, man. Awesome. So how'd you feel about some of the things we talked about with Ken tonight? Like, the especially with the Mothman or Bigfoot, anything, what'd you think?
It's like, I thought it was awesome. And like, I personally believe, like we talked about it during your Bigfoot show, how I think these things are coming out of portals or like window areas that exist naturally, like on the landscape of the planet. But like we talked about it before, I mean, as soon as you say portal, they think spiritual or something that's not physical. But to me, portals just mean a door to anywhere. That could be another dimension. It could be another like frequency of existence, another planet in our dimension, another location on our own planet. For me, it just includes everything. But I very much appreciate that that doesn't really jive with that he's a more nuts and bolts Bigfoot, down to the science guy, because we need that type of stuff. Like, not everyone can say it's portals, so I need people like him so that I can point to actual awesome research and stuff. So I loved it. I ate it up, honestly. But I do think it's portals, honestly.
Right. And, you're a big advocate of ley lines. And that was one of the shows I was going to pitch to you next that you and I, do on the show one of these days, is a lot of these, hot spots around the world, if you will. Very possible that some of these sightings were on these ley lines or on these hot spots or portals, because, it was really bizarre, Night Stalker, that Carl and I and our other friends, saw this weird light. And, it's very possible that could have been a portal. I'm just saying.
No, it definitely could. I think it was. Or like we were saying during the Bigfoot show that kind of anything outside of our frame of reference, like we only have 5 senses that pick up just a small fraction of what's really going on. So from our vantage point, what it looks like to us in the 3D plane when a portal opens or closes, or something like that happens. It could just be a bright light, or we kind of like make some sense of it with our head, like with what we know about. So throughout time, they've been referred to as different things like angelic beings or UFOs or whatever that could be associated with some kind of bright light. But in reality, it could be just that's what it looks like when the door opens and closes. It's almost like not Star Trek, but some sci-fi show where they have those like doors that kind of just open up like shoop, out of nowhere, and then you walk through and then they close again, and there's like a blue flash. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
But I think like if you were to really track it, a lot of them happen on these hotspots. So you had one caller earlier mention the Native American lore, how they believe they're interdimensional. They're walking in and out of worlds. But also Ken mentioned the reservation idea, and that ties right into the Dave Paulides missing 411 stuff, which which is based around reservations, and I think that's portal based. And also I think the reservations also happen to have rivers and hot springs running through them that just don't get referenced because people aren't really looking for it. But a lot of the most famous Mothman stories, like the ones in Chicago, are centered around bridges and rivers, like the Silver Bridge and everything. I think there's definitely a connection there. And like back when you were saying about the being portents for bad events, like those were around like bridge crashes and that kind of stuff. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, omens.
I just think that. Yeah.
No, I was gonna say, harbingers of death, disaster, whatever you want to call it. I don't necessarily think they're evil, but it's possible that they're trying to warn us of things to come that may be evil, and then the things that happen afterwards is just it's just things that happen.
Like along the same lines, like what if they're not actually like responding to like that actual tragedy before it happens, but what if, like, I'm really into the conspiratorial like interworkings of the super high elite, and if they're doing these rituals, which I think they're well aware of where these hotspots are, and that's why they're on reservations, because they're locking them up, they're controlling them. But it could be because, like, maybe 2 streets down from that famous bridge in Chicago where the accident happened, it could be a big defense contractor that was doing some kind of Stranger Things type ritual, and then some kind of demigorgon dog got loose, and then some kids down the street and saw it, and had their own little Stranger Things adventure. It doesn't mean that dog was coming to warn that dog wasn't warning them about Nancy's friend going missing, but Nancy's friend went missing because a portal was opening up and people were getting snatched out. So does that make sense?
Absolutely.
They might not be actually portenting something specific, but it could be like an actual result of whoever's opening these portals, doing these rituals along these ley lines and hotspots and stuff, could be letting stuff in accidentally. I like that idea a lot.
And it's interesting that you bring that up, because now that I think about it, wasn't there water in the Upside Down? Like, wasn't there like
everything's all wet? Yeah, so
everything's all wet. Yeah, it's really bizarre. Yeah. And
they thought that Will fell in that off that cliff and fell in the water because the Department of Energy threw his body in the water, because that's quote unquote where he went missing, because the defense contractor had his own huge plot of land that the kids snuck through because they knew it was a shortcut connected by a river. So that's the kind of stuff I look for. I think once all these researchers, these great minds like Ken and all the other guests you have, take their maps, like map all the sightings they have, and kind of just lay them on top of each other, we'll see some crazy patterns. Like, I think they're laying over sacred sites, defense contractors, things like big tech technology parks and stuff, like Google and that kind of stuff, and like Raytheon and stuff, but also reservations and places where we don't have access to, that they can kind of block it off because they know things are going in and out. And that's why that we don't see them as often, because they're not coming out in the middle of Main Street, because the founders of all our towns didn't build the towns like where the door is going to be opening. They built the town around the door and then blocked the door off so we don't get to it. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Yeah, it's really bizarre, man. This we go on and on and on about all these different theories and just different ideas. But man, I totally dig the idea of the ley lines and the portals. There's who was that? Is it John D. who does a lot with about the ley lines and energy grids on of the Earth or something like that?
Oh yeah. I forget the one person's name, but he's famous for calling them the Templar lines. But then also Freddie Silva talks about them a lot. Or more like he kind of takes like the different sacred sites from around the planet and shows how they're all used for the same shamanic ritual, and they're all aligned in the same way and done. So I went to his lecture a few summers ago, and then I applied that research as part of this whole thing. That like it's too much to explain. But I have I was watching Ancient Aliens about and trying to find some Mothman stuff because I thought they had an episode about that, but I couldn't find it. But I watched one about monsters, and they were talking about the Garuda. Have you heard of the Garuda?
I've heard of the Garuda, yeah.
Before? Yeah. So it's like the king of all birds, or it's in the Mahabharata, like the ancient Vedic book that they talk about, like the possible battle in the sky and everything. The one that Ancient Aliens always talks about with the Brahmanas and stuff.
Uh-huh.
So in this mythical creature, it's supposed to be like Vishnu flies around on its back and creates like hellfire and whirlwinds and things that are associated with this type of portal activity. But also it's known as like it has a connection with snakes. Like it kills snakes, or it's like always chasing snakes, which I think is interesting because they call ley lines serpent lines. And like the Ohio Serpent Mount,
right,
a giant snake, and it marks the ley line energy. So snakes are energy. That's why the caduceus and the medical symbol is serpents, because that's like Kundalini energy. But that same energy that flows through your body flows through the earth, but it's a grid. So like same way acupuncture on our body is along those like nodes. Those can be applied all over the place. And I think it's funny how like one of the most ancient gigantic birds, I don't know, it's weird. I find that fascinating. And also it looks like the symbol that's on the back of the dollar bill, like the eagle.
Oh, that's right. Yeah.
Weird. And the researcher, he'd be a great guest to have on. Joe just had him on a few weeks ago, but Chris Knowles, and he has a whole saga about phoenix symbolism in the media, and how it's like tied to secret societies that go way back, and it's complicated, but it's tied to the stars, and how that symbol is like kind of through line. It's almost like it's almost as prolific as like the all-seeing eye, how it's just everywhere. And I saw it today, and I looked it up, and the Garuda is that same logo. And I was like, oh, that's fascinating.
That
it's
is
like one of the oldest cryptids we've ever heard about. Yeah, it's weird.
Yeah, I'll have to definitely go back and check that episode out with Lighting the Void and Joe and was it Chris Knowles?
They didn't mention it on that show. Yeah, they didn't talk about it on that show, but I'm just a big fan of that researcher. So he'd be a cool guy to have come on talk about stuff.
That'd be great. I'll have to go. I'll have to definitely look into that. And yeah, man, there's so much stuff that we didn't get into, especially from the book that I've been reading with the Flying Humanoids. And I'm in the doing the YouTube video as well, and I was able to put together this like PowerPoint slideshow presentation with some of the images of these Mothman and Owlman and different cryptids. But what's interesting is in Ken's book is he actually mentions Kenneth Arnold, who one of the first UFO incidents in our history, and he shows there's a picture in there. Matter of fact, I was gonna put it in the slideshow right now. He was in there for a minute. He's holding up a picture of a winged UFO, not completely flying saucer, It almost looks like a batarang, you know, from Batman.
Yeah.
And yeah, it's like a blade, like almost like an axe, like an axe blade in a way, where it's curved. But then it has like a little hatch on top of it. I don't know if you probably can't do that because you're at work. But yeah, when you go back, take a look at it, you'll see what I'm talking about.
No, I'm familiar with that. Yeah. And that's weird too, because that's like the origin of the term flying saucer, and he didn't even actually see a flying saucer. That's what makes me think that is something going on that's like involved with our psyche and consciousness based, because he said it moved like a saucer, like a bounce, like a saucer bounced off the water. But the newspaper published a headline, "Flying Saucer," and then immediately people started seeing flying saucers. But if he didn't actually see a flying saucer, it's weird that all of a sudden people started seeing it, unless it's because they were expecting it.
What's even weirder is some of the pictures, the older pictures of UFOs that people got.
I know.
They look like flying saucers.
No. So you know, my boss actually he's been interviewed by MUFON for like multiple hours, different hour sessions, because he has these crazy flying saucer footage, like pictures he took in he has a reservation behind his house. It kind of helped start my whole little research saga, is exploring like behind his woods and trying to tie all this paranormal phenomena that was happening to his family and stuff, like ghost experience, cryptid experience, and also UFO experience. But he took a picture over like the marshland of the reservation behind his house. That's like, no, it's not accessible. So he like created a path to it with him and his wife just over the course of a few months going there. But it's completely blocked off. So he took a picture of it and then was listening to a podcast about UFOs and went back later on and started zooming in on it and like changing the filters, and then caught like the most classic flying saucer picture you can possibly imagine. It's like it's as if it was from 1920 almost, as if it's how like old it looks.
Right.
I just thought that was weird. But you mentioned Batman before, so like for that little video thing, do you ever see Batman Begins? You must have, right?
Oh yeah.
Bill?
Mm-hmm.
You know how when he first starts hitting the streets to like fight crime, the criminals don't know who Batman is, so they think there's some kind of Mothman happening, and like that city is like Christopher Nolan shot Gotham City in Chicago, and then like that clip, the famous clip of Batman like coming down in the alley or like taking people up, it looks like a Mothman. So I think like I think
that's
somebody
interesting.
who wrote Batman had that in mind, but also that'd be a cool clip to throw in with the cryptid things, like while you're talking for the YouTube video, you know.
Well, actually, you know, and again, I have to refer to Ken's book. Is, you know, he does mention that there is a first Batman that is called I think it's called Spring Hill Jack, and Spring Hill Jack. I'm trying to see if I can find the page reference on it, but Spring Hill Jack is like a Batman looking cryptid or person or humanoid, whatever you want to call him. And he instead of flying, he bounds, or he jumps kind of like the Hulk, right? And and this is true. This is, I mean, I don't know how true it is, but it's you know, definitely was back in the early there we go, 1837. There was this person, and he had a sinister smile, kind of like the Joker.
Yeah, I was just gonna say, there's if you were to look up, like, I forget, is it Aztec Batman or something? But there's like a bat god that's like worshipped somewhere back in the day in either Mexico or somewhere down in South America. And there was a viral picture going around a few years ago that looks exactly like Batman with the pointy ears and everything.
Mm-hmm.
And his like enemy, his foil, like in mythology that he faces off against, is this trickster Joker character with the rictus grin and everything. And I just thought that's fascinating.
That is
like,
crazy.
With this whole, with the idea that they're coming out of portals and stuff. And so I've like wanted to pitch this Batman one-shot comic idea, kind of like, but nobody would really understand it because you would need to like know the river portal idea.
Mm-hmm.
But basically, Batman is created when somebody kills Bruce Wayne's parents, like outside of that in Crime Alley, which is outside of like an opera house. So it's like a building that's owned by the officials of Gotham City, and the Waynes are the richest people in the city. So they're the elites of that city, and then there's storylines where they're in secret societies called the Court of Owls. That's really in the comics, and
they're like the Illuminati or something, secret society.
Right, exactly. So the spin I would put on it is that, not to go too deep at all right now, but some people say that the reason why the Kennedys keep getting killed is because they're one of these Illuminati bloodlines that is supposed to get killed. It's like this ritual sacrifice bloodline that keeps happening throughout history. So what if, like, in this comic, what if that's the Waynes? And then, so somebody kills the Waynes, and this ritual sacrifice in Gotham in the DC mythology is known as being split by two rivers, and that's why Gotham was able to be so rich. It's because it had these ports that were in it. So what if in this comic, when Bruce Wayne's parents were killed, it opened up this portal, and this Mothman man-bat creature came out of it, and then Bruce Wayne grows up and realizes that this Mothman that's been terrorizing Gotham City for the last 25 years is because it started on the day that his parents died, and he takes it upon himself to fight it. So it's like that's the new origin of Batman that ties in like all this kind of stuff. I just thought I'd throw that out there because it kind of explains the portal idea that there's like some kind of there's doorways that open up and close, and it could be done on purpose, like with rituals like Crowley and Lovecraft and all that kind of stuff, where intentionally they're opening up, but they also could be happening just completely randomly, and people are catching glimpses and stuff. I think it could go on for like there's no end to the amount of rabbit holes that you can go down with this stuff.
I know, man.
Am I rambling too much?
No.
I'm just standing in the aisle talking right now.
No, man, you're all good. Seriously, I mean, we got plenty of time before the end of the show, and I was putting it out there for anyone who wants to call in. The number is 1-800-588-0335. You can spend as much time as you want, man. I mean, we definitely think alike. So, and man, I have to, my hat's off to you, dude. I mean, the amount of research that you do, and I've heard you on so many other shows, and you were on Clyde Lewis's show, Ground Zero, about almost a month ago, and you were on there for quite a long time. He was talking to you for a while.
Which one was it? I've been calling in a lot, actually.
You were almost like a guest.
Yeah, he'll never have me as a guest, but no, I like calling in. I mean, my thing is just it's all you guys. Like, I have a job where I just put my headphones in, and I have the privilege of just listening to a lot of content, and it's just I happen to have a good memory, I guess. So
memory and recall is amazing, dude.
Yeah, so I happen to just hear the work that researchers like Ken and you have spent decades on, and I just happen to notice how it parallels something I heard the night before, and I'll make the connection. So it's a community effort, I can't take too much credit on it.
Well, as much as I appreciate it, as much as I appreciate you putting me in there with Ken, no, Ken is definitely the man when it comes to research, cryptos, ufology, ghosts. I can go on and on. But yeah, I mean, researchers like him and Nick Redfern and Linda Godfrey, they're amazing people. I feel privileged to be able to talk to them and people like you too. I mean, that has this wonderful, recall and memory that you do all this research. It's just fascinating, and I almost wish I'm jealous, man, because my memory sucks. I'll put it out there and I'll put it out there on the show. I don't care. I mean, I love doing what I do, and I am glad that everyone likes to listen to the show. I try to do my best, but yeah, I mean, it's people like Ken that just really bring all this information to us, and I think it's fascinating. While I have you on the,
I mean, like.
Go ahead.
Yeah, go ahead. I mean, just like kind of speaking from somebody who really depends on these shows. Like I'm at work, so the nights that any host on the Fringe is not having a show, it's a bummer to me. It really makes my night a lot less fun. So you might not be like researching the same stuff Ken is, but you have the platform that brings it out to the masses, and we appreciate it, brother, big time. It's a great show too, fascinating stuff.
No, absolutely. I thank you a lot. But I was gonna say, while I have you on the phone, and maybe we can finish off the show this way. I wanted to start the show earlier, but then I found out, before the show that Ken actually had to leave early, unfortunately. So that's why he left kind of like right after the first break. So, what do you think about this UFO that crashed in Brazil? Apparently, Jeremy Scott from Into the Paranormal right here on the Fringe FM reported it on his website, and there is some tweets about that has a lot of videos. Now, here's the thing, though. Check this out. A lot of those videos got taken down.
Yeah, that's weird. Like,
I'm serious.
My day off is my day off is tomorrow, so that's usually the big day where I really sit down and I start to really go deep down these rabbit holes and watch all the videos and everything. So I've seen that link on Into the Paranormal's page, but I haven't gotten a chance to actually see where it happened per se. But yeah, I've heard that they're not like a lot of people saw it, a ton of people, but somehow just this one news source snuck through and got out quick enough, and then Jeremy like saw it quick, got it on his, so now they can't delete it. And then, but now so that they're just taking things down off YouTube and Twitter and etc., hoping that people don't see that one link or don't see Jeremy's Facebook, and try to bury it under the rug. And I just think it's weird how they keep that one under the rug, but then every chance they get, they're talking about the Nimitz thing and the Pentagon UFO thing. It's like, how come we can't know about the Brazil one, but we can know about the other one?
Exactly. And here's the thing too. After the show we did last night with Gigi and JP, Jewish producer, and Mr. Badia on the Midnight Blend that was on Saturday nights.
For sure.
Yeah, it's really cool. We did a good show, and we brought that up, and we were playing some of that some of those videos. That was from Jeremy's website, but Russ Bailey from Argos Paranormal, Black Sky Paranormal, he's also involved with Argos Paranormal, and they do a lot of researching and paranormal researching and investigating. Good friend Russ Bailey of the show and my good brother puts the article in the Beyonders Crew page on Facebook, where it does say, did a real UFO just crash into Brazil? The internet explodes as videos, eyewitnesses, accounts, and military helicopters emerge everywhere. True that this happened on around the 12th or the 13th last week, but it started coming out more just Friday. And 13. All of these different 13, yeah, there you go. And then there's these videos here, and I'm going to try to bring it up on the YouTube channel. You guys will probably be able to hear some of the audio, so I wanted to play something really quick and see if we can get that up. So let's try that. Let's see what.
Dave, real quick, sorry, I gotta jump out real quick. But I'll keep listening to the end of the show.
Yeah, absolutely, bro.
I just want to throw in real quick that the Montauk Monster. I just found this out today. I was gonna call in earlier about it, but the Montauk Monster was sighted on July 13th, 2008. That's when the girl found it. So it's funny that it's another 13th sighting. But really great show. Awesome stuff. I'll keep listening. Later,
good stuff. Brother. Yeah, good stuff, man. Thank you, bro. Appreciate it. Have a good night.
Later.
Yeah, we only have a couple more minutes, but if you are in the Beyond the Strange YouTube channel, I did try to play the version of the Brazilian UFO crash, and I'm not sure what happened there. It was playing just a second ago. Let's see if I can bring it back up before the end of the show. Here we go. So let's go ahead and transition that, and I'll bring these up little by little. You can see that there's a lot of different lights in the sky, and there is actually one where it looks almost like a cell, and it's spinning around. These people are very confused. They're very excited about this. And this is Brazil. So if you're in the YouTube, you can see what's happening there. But for those of you listening, these people are very, very concerned that there's these things in the sky, and yeah, it's very bizarre, very bizarre indeed. Really quick, please visit the website www.beyondthestrange.com, and you can get past shows, past guest information, and just had a great time. Thank you again, everyone, for listening. Those of you in the YouTube chat, thank you very much for joining us. You in the Discord chat, the YouTube, the Strange chat, and the Fringe FM main hall chat, thank you very much. You guys rock. You guys have a great night. And remember, stay safe out there and stay strange. And we'll see you next week with Preston Dennett. You don't want to miss that show. So everyone have a great night. Good night, everyone. Have a good one. Bye-bye.